Good afternoon, evening, everyone. Welcome to the other side of the garden. Things in background and shot. Hosepipe going over the bushes, and me. And today we are going to be talking about wine. So let's just talk about it. The wine we're going to be talking about is a 2018 Fleurie from Marks and Spencer's. Thank you very much. Right, Fleurie, first of all, is a regional cru of Beaujolais. So Beaujolais sits just below the bottom of Burgundy in France. It is its own region, but it is sort of always paired together with Burgundy. Fleurie is one of only a few areas that can be named specifically as a cru. So that's C-R-U rather than C-R-E-W. So this cru is specific to the area. It's its own appellation, and Fleurie's delicious. And it's a very different kind of wine. And it is north of Beaujolais, and it is just below the Mâconnais in Burgundy, and it is on very hard granite soil. And if I click my fingers, and hopefully this works, you should have just seen a little picture of where Fleurie is, where Burgundy is, where Beaujolais is, and it should all make sense where it is, okay? That's the geography of it all done. The actual wine itself, we're going to just taste straight away, okay? Now, this is made by Paul SAPIN, a producer that's been around since about 1889, but I think it's 1889. And they produce on-spec wine for companies, so they are the producers of this Fleurie, and there's not a great deal of information that I can find out about them, but this is M&S's branded product, and by all accounts is a very, very nice drink. This is a slightly chilled red wine. Beaujolais, onions for lunch, that's good, isn't it? Beaujolais specifically, because of the type of grape that is in Beaujolais, works very well with being slightly chilled, and it is a summer style red wine. This is going to be lighter in style than some of the others, closer towards the Pinot Noir that we had last week, but also it's going to have a lot more of a darker colour to it, which you can see already. So, Fleurie, let's taste it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at it, and if you can see there, right, it's got an almost purpley colour to it, which is great. So medium purple, there we are, and then let's smell it. Oh, so you're getting obviously red fruit characteristics, so sort of cherries and violets, but you actually get a little bit of a sort of kirsch note, and a little bit of emails. There we are, thank you very much. You get some really unusual smells, and it's quite a lot like banana and bubblegum as well. And I know you're all going to be looking like, banana and bubblegum, is he a complete idiot? I'll explain why that is, but that comes from something called carbonic maceration. But it has a really fruity, very light, not like very intense, nose to it. It's something that when you smell it, you're like, oh, yeah, let me have a bit of this. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So, kirsch, bananas, some cherries, some violets. So it smells a little jammy or confected, but it's the same thing. So, it's medium in body, which means it kind of fills the mouth, but it's not really heavy. It has good acidity, which is really nice, because if it was low acidity and very intense, it would just taste like fruit cordial. But it's low in tannin, So when you swirl it around your mouth, you're not feeling your teeth get too furry, I guess, really, but you're not getting that drying sensation. But it's incredibly crisp. Lots of banana-y kirsch notes as well. A little bit of violet as well. It has some savouriness to it, but it's not really, really savoury. It's not as savoury as the Pinot Noir last week. Really nice, easy drinking red wine. It is slightly chilled, and the reason it's slightly chilled is because the grape that they use, Gamay, in Beaujolais, and specifically Fleurie as well here, has very low tannin, which means that when you taste it, you don't have this bittering effect that comes from the tannin, and it actually smooths the acids and allows the fruit to come out more. It's just a very classic way of serving this red wine. Then, this wine has undergone something called semi-carbonic maceration, which sounds already very boring when you say it like that, but it is a really important way of creating really unique fruit profiles in red wines, specifically red wines, without having to give up any of the dryness and the crispness that you get from a really good red wine. And what happens is, carbonic maceration, they use CO2, and now carbonic acid is the old-fashioned name for carbon dioxide. They use carbonic maceration, CO2, to force the grapes to undergo intracellular fermentation, and that essentially draws in all the flavours and colour, which is why you get that deep purple colour, and fruitiness from the skin of the grapes, but it doesn't transmit the tannins through into the pulp of the grape. And that fermentation only happens at the very beginning of the process and can only happen up to about 2.5%. So you have to then put it through another fermentation to actually make it into wine. But it gives you a lot of approachability to a wine that sometimes wouldn't be able to give up that kind of flavour profile. Gamay is known for being able to grow very quickly and give up a lot of grapes. So it is a kind of plant that needs to be really well managed. So what they call the yield on the grapes needs to be really well managed, but also it has a tendency to become wishy-washy or too light. And so in those places where the ground is really hard, and Fleurie has granite soils and sits just at the bottom of Burgundy, so it has this really sought-after flavour profile, which gives it a little bit of minerality as well. You get everything you need from this wine from managing those grapes quite aggressively, but also the hard soil. Interestingly, Beaujolais do something called gobelette pruning. So you know when you see these old-fashioned vines and trails of vines across trellising, these straight lines of vine, they do it differently. They have it on little bushes, and then they sort of prune and then tie up the heads of the grapes, and then they sit like a little cup at the top of the vine. And goblet means cup, or it's a translation word of cup, and that's why it kind of looks and it's called that. And again, they do it to allow the grapes to work a little harder, like the vine has to work harder to make this. It's a £10 bottle of wine from M&S. It should be easy drinking, well balanced and tasty, and it's all of those three things. A little bit of cherry, kirsch, so cherry alcohol, maybe even a bit of banana as well, which is really nice. But really nice plum notes, a little bit of licorice as well, and just so clean and effortless. Nice bottle of that. You can eat it with duck, you could eat it with tuna, you could eat it with most chicken dishes and game dishes. Tonight we have defrosted a bit of pheasant from the freezer, so I'm going to just cook that in a really light mixed vegetable and white wine braise, and just have it with a little bit of risotto rice, and it's going to be really light and quite classic, and will work very nicely with this. And that's the wine. It is simple and complicated and beautiful, and the carbonic maceration gives you a little bit more fruit to it. Cheers.